Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. We are back today with some Chelsea news in an incredibly busy week for Chelsea. I completely forgot, that the Manchester United away game is on Wednesday night. That means it's tomorrow. So we're going to be back with a 3 More Points podcast episode later on today. There is also going to be shootout content from Eunice and I. The link to shootout is in the description. And I kind of wanted to just go over a few of the news stories that we have heard and seen from the past 24 hours or so before, I don't know what happened there, before we get back into watching Chelsea hopefully get another good result against United. I think we can do it. We begin with a story here from Fabrizio Romano. We had links between Napoli's Khvicha Kvaratskhelia and Chelsea this week, but I can tell you guys, from what I am hearing at the moment, is that Chelsea have not started any type of negotiations or made any contact with Napoli. Gonna hold that one there, park that bus for a second. Napoli have a situation on their hands where Victor Osimhen could leave the club next summer, so their idea is to keep Kvaratskhelia and eventually sell Osimhen in the scenario where they can't agree a new deal with the striker. First things first, priority number one at Chelsea right now, and later on in this video we're going to also talk about priority number two. I think the biggest priority right now is getting a proper, top-class, high-quality striker who is better than Nicholas Jackson. I think it's nothing against Nicholas Jackson personally, and I didn't address any of the Nicholas Jackson news last week because, quite frankly, we don't need to just keep giving it airtime. But in terms of a striker, to focus on what he does on the pitch, I was impressed with the way that he played at the weekend against Brighton, but I do think there is going to be a lot of dips up and down of scoring goals, not scoring goals, performing well, not performing well, because that's just the way it goes. With a striker like that, who's still kind of trying to understand what his role is and what his attributes really are. Something I really like about Jackson, and we're going to talk about this in the podcast later on today. I think Jackson works really well coming in off that left-hand side. You saw in the game against Brighton at the weekend, there were a lot of times where Jackson was kind of out there on the left, and then Mudryk would be the one coming through the middle. I think we could see a bit more of that. And I think with Nkunku coming back too, it gives Pochettino more options, gives Chelsea more options. But to focus again here on these news stories, I have not seen any real concrete links anywhere between Chelsea and Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. He's a really, really good footballer. We know that. The Georgian player, probably the best player they've had in a very long time. And he is one of the two talismans at Napoli. But I do think Chelsea's priorities should be and will be firmly asserted. If they are indeed going to be in communication with Napoli, it's probably going to be for Victor Osimhen. I think that one makes the most sense. Osimhen also open to a move to Chelsea. We're going to keep on dipping in and out of Osimhen, Chelsea, links, news, speculation, gossip. It's going to be rife until the January transfer window opens. I don't know if Chelsea are going to be able to pull it off in January, but I also don't know if they'd be willing to risk waiting all the way until next summer when we clearly need more goals. We clearly need someone more clinical, and we want to get back into the Champions League. Let's move into the next story, which again comes from Fabrizio Romano. And as much as I've said to you lot, and I have said this a lot, I don't want to see us linked with 18-year-olds anymore. Can we please go and buy some experienced players? However, I'm going to talk about this one now. European top clubs are starting to move for Copenhagen's Swedish 18-year-old talent, Rooney Bargi. He's under contract until December 2025, which is 2 years away. Short deal, making it an opportunity. Bayer Leverkusen, Juventus, Barcelona and Chelsea scouts have been tracking the player. We saw how good Rooney Bargi was against Manchester United, Chelsea's next opponents. We saw that in the Champions League a few weeks ago. When it comes to the winger position at Chelsea, I want to address this here because when we're linked to all of these players, I'm looking at all of the money that we've spent. I'm looking at the players that we currently have available at the club. Mudryk, I think, is a ticking time bomb. I think eventually when he starts to get into some form, he could absolutely explode. Noni Madueke, not sure what it is, but for whatever reason, I don't really think Maurizio Pochettino rates him. I think he's a good player. I think he's got good ability. But I do think the final decision-making and that ability to just be 100% direct, but then with some like output on the end of it, I think Noni Madueke's always going to struggle to have that final output. I think he can be explosive. He can take players on. But then there's going to be an issue with the quality of the pass, the quality of the cross, whatever it may be. So eventually, when that striker position is filled, when we make that signing, and the goalkeeper, and I think when we're talking, and you'll see who the goalkeeper we're talking about in the moment is, but like when it comes to that striker and that goalie, Chelsea aren't going to be able to just spend 30 million, 40 million to fill these gaps, in my opinion. I think that is kind of the issue that we have now, where we've bought too many 20, 30 million pound players. None of them yet are quite good enough to make this squad or this team or the best 11 one of the best in the league. There's all the potential, but like at the moment, that's a very good reason why we're winning some games, drawing some games, losing some games that inevitably leaves you in the middle of the table. So, Rooney Bargi as a winger. At the moment, we're seeing brilliant signs. If you play Football Manager, you will know just how good this kid is. And he was brilliant in the Champions League for Copenhagen. Keep an eye on this space. But first of all, let's deal with the goalie and also the striker, please, Chelsea Football Club. That is where we now lead to talk into the goalkeeper that we are going to potentially be monitoring to sign in the summer. This is from Transfer News Live. Chelsea, Man United, PSG and Bayern Munich are all keeping tabs on Mike Maignan's situation at AC Milan as contract extension talks stall. The goalkeeper could be available for around 70 million euros. Now then, when it comes to top goalkeepers, I think Chelsea, having Sanchez in there at the moment, is a prime example of how he's a good goalkeeper, but you can't really skimp out on the top ones. The top ones are able to make the great saves that Robert Sanchez was making in that Brighton game, but they also have distribution. They can also be relied on to give the ball to in tight spaces, even take players on. Look at Edison, look at Alisson. Sometimes, even Onana, in a way, Onana makes more high-profile mistakes because he's not as good as Alisson or Edison, in my opinion. But I think what Chelsea need here is someone who's clearly a level above Sanchez. I think Sanchez could be a good goalkeeper, but it doesn't mean he's good enough to be Chelsea's number one when we're looking at Chelsea in the conversation to be in and around the Champions League places. I think Nick Pope's a better goalie. I think Vicario is a better goalie. I think Onana is a better goalie. And I'm pretty sure Raya, Ramsdale, Edison and Alisson are all better goalkeepers than Sanchez. I'm being brutal here, but it is the truth, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But if Mike Maignan is not going to be signing a new deal at AC Milan, this is the level of goalkeeper that Chelsea need to be going for. It's also, when you look at the structure at the club right now, when it comes to the kind of age of players that we're looking to sign, goalkeepers, a lot of them age like fine wine. Petr Cech was still brilliant in his mid-30s, and Mike Maignan's only heading now towards the latter stages of his 20s. So we're talking there about a top current goalkeeper who could still become even better. And I think for me, that makes everything else around him better. He's also French, when we've got a massive contingent of French players. You've got Gusto, Badiashile, Wesley Fofana, Disasi, all of these guys too, that could be playing together at national team level as well as at Chelsea, if we do indeed get him. 70 million is a lot of money, but I think that is what you've got to pay now for a goalkeeper of that standard. And it's also cheaper probably than what AC Milan would have wanted if he'd only recently just signed a new deal. At the moment, the contract talks are breaking down, and I'm pretty sure that will have something to do with the buzzer from Man United, from PSG, from Chelsea, and of course from Bayern Munich. And I think as a result, maybe, imagine a world like this. If Man United and PSG are interested in Mike Maignan, is there a world where then Donnarumma becomes available? Would you want him over Mike Maignan? I'd say no. And Andre Onana, the goalkeeper that Chelsea kind of were interested in, also, if it all goes south there, and at the moment, who knows what Erik ten Hag thinks of Andre Onana. I think Onana is just one of those goalies that will make a load of saves because United aren't actually that good, but he's also going to make a load of high-profile mistakes. So shut the mistakes out, and then you might have got yourself a good goalie. That leads to the answer that he's not good enough. So no, we're not going to entertain that any longer. The next story that I want to discuss today before the final one, which is interesting. Chelsea and Manchester City are both showing strong interest in young River Plate trio Claudio Echeverri, Agustin Roberto, and Ian Subiabre. I don't know who the bloody hell these kids are again, but a trio of young Argentinians. It's never going to end this, isn't it? I understand that this is where this project is. This is the new Todd Boehly era, the new ownership, and for the first few years, we're going to be scouting the Football Manager networks. We're going to be breaking down South America, trying to do our best to infiltrate and build a super team. But a trio of them in one go? Bloody hell. Maybe we can just do rock, paper, scissors with Manchester City. Whoever wins, just have them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just so... Please be linked and have, like, some serious links to some really experienced players. That's where the interesting thing is around this time of the year for Chelsea, where the January transfer window, you don't know if the players are going to be available. How much are we going to want to spend? When you got players that you're linked to, like Victor Osimhen, Mike Maignan, these are the kind of guys that Chelsea actually need. And at the moment, I'm still seeing every other story being a young Argentinian or a bloody young Brazilian. So let's wait and see how that one goes, shall we? The final story of the day, which is more, I'd say, interesting than anything else, because I'm not entirely sure on the full validity of this story, but I'm going to talk to you here. Revealed. Todd Boehly picked Arne Slot up in a private jet for talks about managing Chelsea last summer. Slot decided to stay. Chelsea instead went for Maurizio Pochettino. These are some talks that have came out, I believe, of the Netherlands. Arne Slot is, of course, the manager of Feyenoord. Feyenoord aren't doing too badly. Ajax have obviously deteriorated massively in the Netherlands. There's an opportunity for Feyenoord to bring about an area and era of dominance. So, what does this have to say here about Todd Boehly and the way that we're looking at things right now? In my opinion, there isn't really any world where if we're looking at like a gamble or a project building idea, I don't think there's any world where Arne Slot is prioritized higher than Maurizio Pochettino. That's where I think about this one. I don't know exactly who it would have been who could have considered Arne Slot coming from the Eredivisie and Feyenoord being a better shout than a Premier League proven manager, PSG title winner, Maurizio Pochettino. I think at this point in time, Chelsea fans, we've all kind of accepted. Any of us that had the issues about, oh, used to manage Spurs, including myself, I'm over that now. I've seen more than enough from Maurizio Pochettino to suggest that I think at this phase of this project, at this phase of the new era, we've made the right choices here. Maurizio Pochettino coming in. The scores really haven't been good enough yet. Yes, the home form is still alarming. 2 wins in the last 15 Premier League games at Stamford Bridge. Ain't really good enough. It is now December, so I think this is the period. December, beginning of January. That's where we can really start to judge Maurizio Pochettino. And some of the rumours are that if things don't really improve, if Chelsea is still kind of lingering around these 10th, 11th, 12th places for a few more months, some people are saying that Poch might actually go. I wouldn't say bringing in a manager from Feyenoord is really going to change too much. That Pochettino won't be able to change after having a couple of transfer windows and a whole season. We saw it last year with Potter. We were told he was going to have the full season. He didn't get the full season, and nothing really changed when Lampard came in either. I've seen improvements. The players are fighting, and I'm excited for the game tomorrow against Manchester United. So, if you did enjoy this Chelsea news video, do be sure to hit the like button on it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already done so, and check back later on today because a new episode of the 3 More Points podcast will be out. And if you want to catch it early, it will be on Spotify and iTunes before it goes up on YouTube. Links to those are both in the description. Thank you for watching. Come on, you Blues.